Hello, and welcome to another Fantasy Premier League video. My name is Steve, and I'm turning on my assistant manager chip this week in Game Week 31. And I'm turning it on this week so that I can use my wild card in Game Week 34 in order to manage that blank that is coming up, and in order to set up for some sort of bench boost at the end of the season. So I'm actually going with quite a different strategy to what many managers out there seem to be doing, as I will actually be dead ending into game week 33, which is when the doubles are very likely to fall. Now, in terms of game week 31, I did cop the Gabriel injury in game week 30, which will need dealing with this game week. But thankfully, I've got 3 transfers to play with, having just made 3 transfers last week, bringing in Gabriel and Eze. Those transfers turned out pretty good, as Mamouche came away with 9 points, Gabriel with the 6, Eze unfortunately blanked. But the reason I did go for Eze over Saka was that I did predict that when Mateta would be likely to only be playing 70 to 75 minutes for a few matches across this run of games, and that Eze would probably have penalties when that happens. Now, Mateta, who I also have in my team, was subbed off in the 59th minute, which did mean I had Eze on penalties for half an hour in that match at the weekend, which he obviously didn't get any sort of penalty or anything. But along with Mamouche, Gabriel, and Eze, I had Isaac, Mbumo, and Kanate all coming in for me, which helped me to a game week score of 51 points, which I think is going to be bang on my safety score once all the auto subs come in and the leagues are recalculated. I left Rogers on the bench, who pulled in 2 assists and some bonus points. Had Salah captain, who blanked. Semenyo, Raya conceding a goal quite late in the match. However, it was I think it was it Munoz? Muniz, sorry, that missed a header from like 6 yards out. So they really should have probably conceded 2 goals in that match. And that's pretty much all she wrote. So 51 points, bang on my safety score. It's not too bad considering there were about 660,000 wildcards in play in Game Week 30. And I think there's probably going to be a whole bunch more wildcards going in for Game Week 31 as well. So I'm pretty happy, all things considered, and we're moving on to Game Week 31. So I used my free hit in game week 29, which means I will be using the wild card to deal with the blank in game week 34. I'll then be bench boosting in a single or double game week if there is a double game week left at the end of the season. We're still a little unsure as to whether or not that's going to happen. But I did decide much earlier on in the season, when I decided to play the triple captain instead of the assistant manager for those Liverpool fixtures, for the double-double of the Liverpool, I did think that I'd probably have some issues using the bench boost later in the season, and kind of resided to the fact that I might have to do it in a single game week, which I'm not totally averse to, considering the bench boost is really 3 extra defenders playing in your team and 1 more attacker. So it's mostly just, the defense that'll be coming in at some point. So with my transfers from here until game week 33, I am only looking at very short-term transfers that only have to last in my team for the next 3 game weeks. And as I said, I've got 3 free transfers to manage this big double coming up in game week 33, which is still yet to be announced at the time of recording. And I also have a rare 4 million sitting in the bank, which is kind of crazy at this point of the season. So first of all, Gabriel, we have to deal with him. He has to go. He was subbed off after just 16 minutes against Fulham with a hamstring issue. Even without any sort of press conferences or anything, it probably means he'll almost certainly miss game week 31 and maybe even a couple more games after that, especially considering the fixture congestion and Champions League matches that Arsenal do have to contend with. So I think I just have to sell him this week. I don't think there's any point in holding on to him because he might not even be back for that double in game week 33. Now, I mean, the first guy that I considered for a replacement was Saliba. However, Arsenal will be slightly weaker defensively without Gabriel in the team. The partnerships of the two centre-backs is pretty crucial when it comes to any sort of defence in a football team. Now, I already also have Raya in the squad, and so I asked myself, without Gabriel, do I really want to double up in defence? Saliba also has very little attacking threat. Nothing really comparable to Gabriel on set pieces. Gabriel's just an absolute monster in the box. Now, if you caught my video last week, which I could only really release about 10 hours before the deadline, so you might have missed that one, but I did say that I am looking to buy Saka into the team for Mbumo. This was part of my decision making for bringing Gabriel into the squad last week instead of tripling up on the Arsenal defense. So I will be bringing Saka in at some point before game week 33. And I'm also kind of now tempted to go for Merino as a differential. And so I'm not even certain that bringing in Saliba this week is a really good idea, as it would block a pretty intriguing differential. Now, we'll go into Merino a little bit later on, as we'll just deal with the Gabriel transfer first. Now, considering next week in game week 32, Crystal Palace and Newcastle are doubling. I am turning on my assistant managership this week. I don't know, we'll go through who I'm going to choose in a minute, but I will have Oliver Glasner as my assistant manager in game week 32 and game week 33, which is why I had to make the decision on Eze versus Sarr last week, as I obviously already have two Palace players in my team, and Glasner would make the third. So I really need to look at some investment into the Newcastle team. They have a double in game week 32 and are away to Leicester this week. And to be honest, I think my last couple of game weeks worth of transfers, I have bought players coming up against Leicester. Fernandes went in on my free hit against Leicester. I brought in Gabriel and Mamouche against Leicester last week. They both returned quite well. And so I think I need to prioritise bringing in a Newcastle asset this week as well. Now, just on Newcastle team as a whole, if Gordon was about and not injured, I'd seriously consider bringing him into the team. But given he's injured, I probably need to decide who the next best Newcastle asset is. Now, Hall is currently injured, and Trippier is already flagged again after only his second start, having played very little minutes this season, obviously being plagued by a bit of injury. So I won't be going for Hall or Trippier. I don't think Fabian Schär is actually worth the additional 1 million investment over the likes of Livramento or Burn. I know I'm absolutely flush with cash, but I just don't see the point in wasting any of it. So I don't see a massive upside over those two. So I think I'd side with Livramento for the small amount of assist threat that he offers. I'm not entirely certain that I'm actually going to be fully invested in both Newcastle and Palace. I might actually only have 5 assets next week. But if I do go for a 6th player, it's really going to be a toss-up between Murphy at 5 million, and Gordon if he potentially happens to be back. But my midfield slots are actually, I don't actually know if I'm going to have any midfield slots to bring in either of these players. So basically, through a process of elimination, I'm going to be selling Gabriel this week for Livramento to use one of my 3 free transfers. Isak was also withdrawn after 65 minutes against Brentford, a game in which he scored in game week 30. Now, the injury didn't sound too severe based on what was coming out of the press match conferences, and Newcastle is the last game of the game week, so it is some time away yet. So I don't even know if we're going to get any information about Isak. But I think the risk of selling him in the chance that he might not make it is just more of a risk than holding on to him and having him miss out the game entirely against Leicester. So I'm just going to be rolling the dice on Isak, holding him in the team. And I do have Rodgers on the bench against Nottingham Forest at home, which is pretty good bench cover if Isak happens to miss out. Elsewhere in the team, I've got Semenyo, who's coming up against West Ham away this week. Now, Semenyo will almost certainly leave my team before the double in game week 33, as he doesn't double. And I will be looking to maximize as many players as I can on this big double in game week 33. But I don't think I can actually sell Semenyo this week. West Ham have been poor pretty much all season. They're actually 4th worst for XGC across the entire season, sitting just in front of the 3 promoted sides. Additionally, Kluivert missed out in game week 30 and has a 50% chance of playing, so he could still be injured for this West Ham away match, which actually means that Semenyo has a chance to be on penalties for this West Ham fixture. Now, Evan Nielsen is usually second in line for penalties, but he did actually miss his last attempt, which is against Chelsea way back in game week 4. Since then, Semenyo did take a penalty in the 4th round of the Cup against Everton, but in that game, Evan Nielsen wasn't on the pitch when that happened. So we really don't know who's got penalties. Will Evan Nielsen be given another chance, or will it be over to Semenyo? Regardless, well, not regardless, but out of those 2 options, I think because Semenyo has missed and Semenyo has taken one after that, even if Evan Nielsen was off the pitch and actually scored his penalty, I'd be inclined to think that Semenyo will be the more likely player to take a penalty if Kluivert doesn't happen to come out for this West Ham fixture at the weekend. However, if Kluivert is actually injured, it will affect Bournemouth's attack, as he is the main man that controls the midfield and is actually a huge reason why that attack ticks along so well. So it might give Semenyo penalties, but it might also detriment the overall attack of Bournemouth. Still, I think there's enough here to hold on to Semenyo for game week 31. And so I'll probably be looking to move him on next week, or potentially in game week 33. So after the sale of Gabriel, so if I just put this in, I won't actually make the move yet because I think there's no point making it today. I'll just wait till tomorrow to see if any more information comes to light. But after the transfer of Gabriel to Livramento, I'll have 5.7 million in the bank, which kind of seems a little bit ludicrous at this point of the season. I'll also have 2 free transfers still remaining for this game week. Now, the one lesson that I did learn from the free hit in game week 29 was that I really should have played Strand Larsen, who was a much cheaper asset, rather than hunting for a differential and trying to gain rank that way. I ended up going for Son, who only played the second half of that fixture last in game week 29, and left Strand Larsen's brace of goals against Southampton sitting first on my bench, which is pretty annoying. Now, I won't be making that mistake again. So if I happen to have almost 6 million sitting in my bank at the end, well, come the deadline for game week 31, then so be it. I just have to go with whoever I think are the best players, not necessarily looking to fully invest those funds. Now, one place that those funds will be going will be to buy Saka into the team. Now, we did play in off the bench last game week, scored a goal, got bonus points from that fixture because Arsenal did end up conceding. However, Saka has been out since just before Christmas. That's about 3.5 months ago now. So under normal circumstances, with that amount of time on the bench, I'd say that the chances are extremely thin for a start from Saka this week. And with the fact that the next 6 fixtures for Arsenal all fall within 3 to 4 days of one another, I think it's even less likely that he'll be rushed back into the starting lineup for this fixture away to Everton this week. So I'm actually expecting another 25 to 35 minute run out from Saka against Everton this weekend, and then probably a 60 to 75 minute performance in the first leg of the Champions League in the match following. So I think I'll delay buying Saka until at least next week, or next Premier League week, see what happens in the Champions League match. If he gets a start in that fixture, then I can almost certainly bring him in for game week 32. And so we come full circle all the way back to Merino, who I did mention is a pretty tempting differential. And I'm looking at him for a 3-week dead-end punt. Now, Merino has got 4 goals in the last 6 game weeks. So scored against Fulham for a 90-minute performance, scored against Chelsea from a 90-minute performance, got 3 90-minute performances against United, Forest and West Ham, and scored 2 goals off the bench against Leicester in game week 25. Now, he's played the full 90 minutes for the last 5 Premier League games, as I just went through there. He's also started up front in both legs of the Champions League matches against PSV as well. And I think this shows that he is clearly first choice number 9. Now, there's a small chance that Trossard could play up front instead, but I actually see Trossard as a bit more of a winger who might need to rotate with Martinelli, who's just coming back from injury. Trossard also hasn't scored since game week 22. Although did he... Is it? Yeah. So, is it game week 22? Game week 21, actually, sorry. Is this Trossard? Yeah. The game week 21 against Tottenham was the last time he scored. He's played 1990, or 76, 1990, 83, 88, got an assist against Leicester, 2 assists against Villa, 90, 90, 90, 90, and then 13 with Martinelli coming back into the starting lineup against Fulham at the weekend. So I think Trossard's probably going back to the bench and will probably be used in a bit of a rotation. And when he might even be used on the right and have Saka come in for the last 25 minutes with Trossard going off from that position, although it might still be Nwaneri out on the right wing. Now, apart from Liverpool, who are sitting clear at the top of the league, the tops, or the next 5 of the top 6, are all pretty close together on the Premier League table. And so Arteta is actually going to be forced to play his first choice 11 pretty often in order to secure Champions League spots for the end of the season. So I think this also helps Merino's chances to keep starting up front as he came in to replace Havertz, who got injured back in Gameweek 23. Now, for my team, I do need to seriously consider a differential with good enough prospects to try and help me rise up the ranks. So I do need to make a bit of ground up. I'm really hoping the assistant manager is going to help me across these 3 game weeks. But Merino playing out of position up front, only selected by 1.4% of the game. It's actually way lower than what I thought it was going to be when I went in to look at it. Merino also passes the eye test based on what I've seen on the pitch, and so I'm seriously considering bringing him in this week. Now, in terms of who to bring him in for, I think I have to hold on to Rodgers now, considering Villa are very likely to double in game week 33. I've also had Rodgers in the team for quite a while now, bringing him in for like 5 million or something. So I've got quite a bit, well, not quite a lot. I mean, 0.5 million or so built up into Rodgers in the team. So it really comes down to Mbumo, considering I am looking to hold on to Semenyo for this 1 week. Now, Mbumo has a 38% ownership and is heading into 2 pretty tough fixtures. This week he's playing Chelsea. It is at home, but it is Chelsea, which is always a tough game. And then he goes into Arsenal next game week, which are 2 pretty strong opponents. So I think I'm actually going to go for it and bring in Merino for Mbumo and hope that Merino can gain me some rank over the next 3 weeks. Now, that kind of feels a bit weird selling a nailed-on player with 90 minutes on pens and on a lot of set pieces for someone like Merino, who I don't think has any set pieces, only has the fact that he's out of position, but he is playing in a pretty strong Arsenal team, and I think he is first choice. Small amount of rotation threat for Merino, but I need to make some ground up somewhere, really hoping that Chelsea and Arsenal can keep Brentford quiet, and Merino can come in and do a little bit of damage for me over the next 2 game weeks and the double in game week 33. And so that just leaves the assistant manager chip and who I will be turning it on for. So heading into this game week, I was really hoping to be able to go for someone like Emery against Forest as a table bonus fixture. But with all the results that came in game week 30, they are now only 4 places apart, which is 1 off the 5 required for the table bonus to be in effect. And when I did eye up the likely table bonus fixtures heading in, I did think that Aston Villa to beat Forest was probably the best shot at a table bonus fixture. I'm not at all keen to target any lower league team against either Liverpool or Arsenal, as I think they are clearly the 2 best teams in the league, as I think it's just too hard for them to get a result. I will be going for Oliver Glasner next week to grab the double game weeks in game weeks 32 and 33. Now, of course, Crystal Palace will come up against Arsenal in game week 33, assuming that all the fixtures fall as we think they will. But that's not a single game week fixture, that's a double game week fixture, which is totally worth rolling the dice on. So I don't think I'm going to try table bonus against Arsenal in a single game week, but I'm happy to do so in a double. And I really don't love any of the other table fixture bonuses that remain. So I don't think I'm actually going to be swinging for a table bonus fixture this game week, now that Villa versus Forest fixture is no longer on offer. So the question really comes down to whether I want to go for a big team for the safety of a result, but also have to spend a transfer next week in order to bring Oliver Glasner in. Now remember, it doesn't actually cost you a transfer to turn on your assistant manager chip. It will cost you transfers if you ever want to switch that assistant manager, even if you switch it in the same game week, by the way. So it's, do I want to go for a big team for the safety of a result and spend a transfer, or do I just go for Oliver Glasner straight off the bat at home to Brighton this week and bank that transfer to help me deal with game week 32 and 33 doubles? Now, I think Palace are more than capable of beating Brighton. In fact, if this was a table bonus fixture, there'd be absolutely no question. I'd be going Oliver Glasner for all 3 game weeks in a row. Palace are also at home, so that also boosts their prospects for this Brighton fixture. And when I've had a little look at the next couple of game weeks rolling transfers forward, I'll only have enough transfers to maximize the doubles in game week 32 and game week 33 without any more injuries to my team. Now, over the last few game weeks, injuries have been rife. I've managed to dodge most of them. I got caught by Gabriel this week, but a lot of managers out there are being forced into transfers because of, well, it's end of season, legs are tired, there's been no real proper recovery period, and the fixture schedule is pretty hectic, and so it's a much more increased chance of injuries coming up over the coming game weeks. So all things going to plan without any injuries, next week I will have 5 doubling assets in game week 32 and 8 doubling assets in game week 33 with, well, 2 transfers to spend next week if I only spend 1 this week, and I will pick up an extra transfer or 2 across the moving game weeks. And so I should be able to get right up to about 10 or 11 double game weekers in game week 33, but that means I might only have 5 doubling assets in game week 32. So I have to make up my mind next week what happens, especially considering there might be more injuries next week. And so I think I really want to try and avoid copping any hits over the next 3 game weeks. Really just, I don't want to be giving away 4 points if I can manage it. I do have 3 free transfers, so I really shouldn't be copping any hits, but I do need to build quite strongly for this double in game week 33. So I think this week I'm actually just going to lock in Oliver Glasner and bank the transfer so I don't have to transfer away from any other manager that I might go with this week in order to jump onto Oliver Glasner next week. And so that's going to be the team. Gabriel's going to go out for Livramento. I'm going to be selling Mbumo for a 1.4% owned differential in Merino. I'll be sticking the captaincy on Salah yet again. He's been my perma captain for quite some time. And I don't actually know where the vice captaincy will go this week. I might just leave it on Isak, assuming that just Salah's just not going to mix this Fulham fixture at all. If I had to go away from Isak, it might go on someone like Mamouche. Away to Manchester United, as you would have seen fast Tony run from penalty box in his own half, right the way through the whole Manchester United midfield, right down the other end of the pitch to score a goal. It's just Manchester United's defense is horrible at the moment. But anyway, that's the team. Good luck for the game week to you all out there. I really need some points from this assistant manager chip in some of these differentials. So fingers crossed we're on for a green arrow next week. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you all again next time.